Good afternoon. We're getting ready to start. I appreciate everyone for coming today, and welcome to the Capital Planning Advisory Board meeting today. We do have a full agenda, so I would appreciate all who are presenting today to, due to the limited time, we're going to ask each presenter to stay within 10-minute time frame. And then after that, we'll allow maybe 5 minutes for questions. Please, at this time, if you haven't already done so, please silence your phones and or mute your phone Zoom except for the roll call. At this time, I'll call this meeting to order, and I ask for a roll call.
Senator Wheeler. Senator Wheeler. Representative Lewis. Representative Lewis. Rocky Adkins. J. Michael Brown. Charles Byers.
Here.
Jacqueline Coleman.
Here.
Laurie Dudgeon. Carol Henderson.
Here.
John Hodgson.
Here.
Patsy Jackson.
Here.
Holly Johnson.
Here.
Ryan Neff.
Ryan Neff.
Somebody needs to mute.
We need someone to mute their phone, their Zoom call. Please.
There you go. Mark Overstreet.
Here.
Katie Shepard.
Here.
Senator Southworth.
Here.
And Representative McCool presiding.
Here.
Good afternoon. You have 5 information items in your meeting folders. It's provided as follow-up to questions that were raised at the June meeting. I won't go through each of the items individually, but I would highlight one item that's an information item today. The Kentucky Communications Network Authority has provided some information regarding the questions that were asked last month. This item was amended to provide additional information about the cost elements identified as part of the project cost in question 1 of that information item. We do have representatives here from the authority today, and we have representatives from the other agencies also, if you have any questions regarding the follow-up pieces. Did anyone have any questions regarding those pieces? Okay. If not, I'll move on to the next item, and that is the amended capital plan. Since the June meeting, we've had one agency, the Department of Veterans Affairs. They've amended their capital plan. The agency has added one new federally funded project, the Kentucky Veterans Cemetery West Expansion of Lawn Crypts project. The project will cost $2.6 million and is planned for the 2022-24 biennium.
Okay, I want to back up here and just for a quick moment to get approval of the minutes. Someone have motion for approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Senator for approval. To have second?
Second, Representative Lewis.
Second, Representative Lewis. All in favor? Are we going to do we need to do a roll call? Okay. All opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, next on the agenda is we're going to ask Eastern Kentucky University to come up and please introduce yourself. And again, I appreciate your time, and it's very valuable for our information going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Ethan Witt. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Government and Community Relations at EKU. Joined today by my colleague, Dr. Brian Mackinnon, our Associate Vice President for Facility Management and Safety. And we're joined virtually by our colleague, Mr. Ryan Green, who is EKU's Director of Budgeting and Financial Planning. We appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today to talk about the items that you have received prior to the meeting regarding our 6-year capital plan. At EKU, this is an ongoing conversation amongst our leadership team about how we can prioritize that plan, deferred maintenance, capital investment to best serve our students. And at EKU, we're very proud that over 90% of those students are Kentuckians, most all of which will return back to work in Kentucky communities after they graduate. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Green, and he's going to detail what are our top 2 capital priorities. And then after that, we'll be happy to take questions on those items or anything else in your information packet.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Very good. Before we get going, I would like to say that I really appreciate the assistance of staff, both with projects, with the Capital Project Bond Oversight and Capital Plan Advisory Board. Staff is always very reachable, very helpful, very knowledgeable about the system, and that is always something that budget folks appreciate when you're trying to get data in. So without further ado, the Eastern Kentucky University Capital Plan will have some changing priorities in terms of the number 1 priority that you'll see in the budget requests this coming fall will be the Renovate Alumni Coliseum project. We've had a number of projects along with Model Lab, capital renewal pools. These are projects over the last several biennia that are intensely focused on maintaining the current use of the current facility. In the example of the Alumni Coliseum, it is centrally located with a redesigned quad there in the center of campus for student use, including the new Student Recreation Center, the newly renovated Powell Center, and the new Dining Center. And so because of the academic programs supported by those co-located facilities, we will be making some adjustments in terms of our prioritization. However, these items have always, over the last 4, 5, 6 years, over the last couple of budget submissions, been top priorities in terms of the usage we would like to extend and the facilities themselves, which have a number of good bones to them. Primarily, over the last several years, EKU has been managing a roughly $380 million deferred maintenance backlog. That's what the figure would calculate related to the next 2-year submission that you'll see this coming fall. So that's an extensive 2-year value. So that's not the entire outstanding value, which it would be included in a 6-year figure. That nearly $400 million figure takes a lot of focus on infrastructure, core facility needs, multiple renovations to multiple significant standalone and joined facilities. And, to demonstrate a bit of the commitment that EKU has had to this effort, we included in information sent to committee staff that demonstrates over a roughly 10-year period, EKU itself locally has contributed almost $124 million to the maintenance of these structures that we are entrusted to manage on behalf of the state government. And so what we always would like to be able to do over time is point out how we're attempting to manage all the things that are used by students, in addition to things that folks don't see: steam lines, building infrastructure, HVAC units. And so those things are always there. We have a need for some new construction, but as in prior plans, our primary commitment over the last several years and going forward is to the maintenance of the facilities and extending the life of those facilities for the use of students, faculty, and staff.
One other facility that I'll mention really quick, and then we'll be happy to take your questions, is the Model Lab School. As many of you know, EKU operates the Commonwealth's Laboratory School. We have just over 700 students, K through 12 at Model, one of the top 7 five-star high schools in the state of Kentucky, in a very outdated building. So along with Alumni Coliseum, at the top of our list in terms of finding a path forward is the Model Lab School, as we look to be that beacon of innovation for the state as it relates to K-12 education. That's a facility that not only serves those 700 K-12 students, but hosts many of our university students in and out of that facility as they interact with the teachers and the students at Model Lab School. So that's the other item that would be at the top of our list in the biennial budget request. And with that, we'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any questions? Well, you've done a wonderful job. We have no questions, and thank you for your time and your service very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Kentucky Community and Technical College System. Would you please come forward and introduce yourself, and you may proceed. Thank you. Make sure your mic is on too, please.
I'm Andy Casper. I'm the Director of Major Projects for Kctcs, and accompanying me today is Sandy Atkins, who is the Director for Capital Construction Budgeting for Kctcs. First of all, I'll explain to you that the mission of Kctcs is to improve the quality of life for Kentuckians by giving them workability, employability, and a new step in life, especially through the things we've been through in the last year. A lot of people are having to redirect their life in a different way. Jobs that were available aren't. And Kctcs is focused on employment of people by giving them the training that they need. We also are a transfer organization where we provide transfer education that allows students to locally start their college education and then move to one of the higher institutions of higher learning for a four-year degree. We have 16 two-year colleges throughout the state. We're in 70 locations. And there are students in our system from every single county in Kentucky. We have about 108,000 credit-seeking students in our enrollment at this time. It's fluctuated a little bit because of COVID, but has continued. We have 334 buildings. It's 8 million gross square feet, valued at about $784 million. The average life of our buildings, though, is 32 years. So they're much outdated and need help. So the first thing, I'll talk to you just a little bit about how we do our planning. Since we have 16 different colleges that have their own needs and priorities and understand what they need to focus on to help students in their area, we start our 6-year plan process by having the colleges indicate to us what their priorities are. We also have our staff that's helping them to evaluate what the physical needs of buildings are. All that is put together. Our primary focus is to try to preserve the assets that we already have, try to accommodate not only existing programs that need expansion or need updating, but we also try to help them repurpose spaces that they have in order to take on new programs that come to light because of the current employment needs that employers tell us about. Our first number one priority on our list, and I'm just going to kind of hit real quickly on the top 10 on our 6-year plan, but the first one is deferred maintenance. And we're asking for $40 million. The reason for that, we haven't had state funding since 1998. And we have resourced our own resources, the restricted funds that colleges have, to the greatest extent possible. We still today are with about $51 million worth of deferred maintenance on our list of things that we need to do. It's things like roof replacements and air conditioning and chiller replacements and electrical and plumbing upgrades. All those things, if they're deferred too long, and for some of them it has been too long, become major issues that start to not only affect the building and take our assets even further into disrepair. But it also affects a student's physical well-being, their health. It affects the student's ability to learn, and it affects our ability to provide the services to our students that we need to. So we just ask that the help that we can receive from the state here, that we will continue to supplement with our own resources. We need to try to remove as much of that backlog as we can. It's getting to a situation where it's not going to be able to be returned. Our second project is at Elizabethtown Community College. It's the occupational and technical building there. We're asking for $4 million or $14 million in the first biennium. To give you an idea about this building, it's about a football field long. It includes the original 1966 vocational school that was built, and it has just been added on to over time. First in 66, 71, in the 80s, and then in the 90s. The programs there have been functional since that time and do provide a lot of needed services to our students, but they have gotten to the point where we need to upgrade them to provide not only a better learning environment for the current things that are there, like machine tool and welding and auto diesel and culinary arts, but we also need to expand into the advanced manufacturing technologies, which E-Town is one of our colleges that has not yet been able to move in that direction. But there's a great need in that south central Kentucky area for these kind of programs, and we need to get them up to speed and up to current use. Our second project is at Jefferson Community Technical College in Louisville. It's a 12-story tower building that houses all of our science lab classrooms and other classrooms on campus. I stuttered and I said 11 stories first because our elevator only goes 11 stories, but it's actually a 12-story building. So the faculty offices on the 12th floor do not even have elevator ability, which is kind of terrible. We are right now, this building was built in 1971. In 2003, there was a renovation done to it with limited funding. We weren't able to do everything that we needed to do. In 2007, we did a study and found out that we were starting to have major parts of the building deteriorate and need upgrading, HVAC systems, structural systems, the building envelope, but we weren't able to get funding. And this project has been requested over a number of biennium. We're still needing to request it. We are currently right now going through a new study to supplement what we did in 2003 to see what our effects are now. We've had a preliminary report that says this building may actually be beyond its ability to be renovated effectively. We will know more before the budget requests are done in November. But I just want to alert you that this building is critical that we do something to it. Right now we're trying to renovate it. We need about $15 million in the first biennium. $5 million of that is going to come from the college's own resources. We'll need another $17 million in another biennium to finish up. But all the science classrooms for the entire college are in this building on those 11 floors, and it's vital to their continued use. To give you a few ideas of what's going on, if the wind blows greater than 30 miles per hour, we get a lot of rattling, and it's because all the fenestration on the exterior of the building has come loose. Your first inclination is, why don't you just go fix it? Well, the way this building's constructed, and it sits on a plaza, we can't get equipment up onto that plaza because it structurally has some problems. So we would have to use cranes to try to replace those windows, and that right there is a very costly thing. So until we get a significant amount of funding, we can't even do the repairs to this building that we need to do. So we just ask you look at this one closely as you start to consider projects. Our fourth priority is the Somerset Community College. We had a project in the 2020-2022 biennium where we were asking to build a new building on the north campus, and we were going to demolish this building. We have done some further study, and we have found that we can actually renovate this building effectively. We had some revised ideas there. It's also very important for the students in that area that this building actually be located on our south campus. So we've revised our 6-year plan to show that we'd like to renovate this building at the tune of $6 million in phase 1. There will need to be multiple phases to this building. The photographs I have for you to see, well, you're not seeing them, are you? The way the building is, the original design front of the building, which is the pretty side, if you can call this building that was built in the early 70s still pretty, is no longer how students access the building. They access the building from the backside, which are a series of overhead doors leading into each of the classrooms. We need to revise this building so that we can put an entrance to the building on that side of the building, get students in so that they can get oriented, so we can have better security of the building, and then try to disperse them into the rest of the building. It's kind of odd how this building seems to have on its own turned around from the public side. Our 5th request is a renovation of the South Central Kentucky Technical College, a couple of buildings. If you recall, we did a Build Smart project there where we built a new building and we relocated some of the classroom spaces and lab spaces out of some existing buildings into that new building, which frees up some space in those other 2 buildings, buildings H and A and H. And we'd like to consolidate some of the other administrative and student services from a bunch of other ragtag buildings into those buildings to consolidate that and give a better student experience. The buildings that were constructed in 1968 and have not had any kind of major renovation to it. That's why we need $10 million to accomplish all that. $5 million of that will come from restricted funds. We're asking for 10. Need to move quicker. Gateway Community College, we have a roof replacement. Number 7 is the Ashland Community College. It's the original vocational school. The buildings are in very bad shape. We'd like to really move those programs out to East Park, but we're having to look at this building and renovating it too. So our request is for $5.9 million to renovate portion of the buildings at Roberts Drive. We also have a Hopkinsville Community College HVAC upgrade, Hazard Community College, renovate the Jolly Classroom Center, and Big Sandy Technical College. With that, I apologize for going a little bit long. We have a lot of needs, and just pass it over to you guys for questions if you have some.
Well, thank you very much. I think we do have a couple of questions. I want to defer to them. I think we have one from John.
Yeah, question back on number 3 there, the Hartford building. You have just a ballpark idea of what the replacement cost would be?
Yes, sir. The way we're looking at it in the study, the $15 million for the first biennium and the $17 million for the other, if we can renovate the building within those numbers, we would want to keep it. The study is also going to tell us what the replacement cost would be. If those would need to be significantly lower for us to want to go in that direction. So we will know that in November. But
okay, so you're going to complete the repair versus replace analysis before you spend any money on the renovations then?
Yes, sir. The whole purpose of the study that we have going on right now is to try to figure out, can we really renovate it less expensively than we can build a replacement? And if it's a replacement, they're going to be low rise and would be able to be done more efficiently.
Thank you.
And I think we're talking about the same building. So if you're going to do any renovations, you're going to have to also consider ADA and safety involvement as well. So when you do that, you're going to have to come up with code today.
Yes, sir. We would have to do something to extend the elevator to the 12th floor. Right now, restrooms, women's restrooms are on, I think, the even-numbered floors, and men's restrooms are on the odd-numbered floors. All the science classrooms, there's 4. To see this building is crazy. And I'm not picking on architects from 1966, but I am. The floor plate of this thing, there's 4 science labs on each floor and restrooms only for one or the other gender on each floor, and a big hallway. That's the entire floor. It's just crazy. The labs haven't been renovated. When we try to renovate them, we actually need more space per lab. So if we try to renovate it, we're probably going to end up with less laboratories. It's just a crazy situation. That's why we've done so many studies trying to figure out if we really can effectively give the students of Kentucky and Jefferson County you know, what they need, or do we need to do something else?
Okay, thank you. I think Senator, you got a question?
Yes, I was going to go, this is just picking a sample on number 4. There are a number of questions I could ask, but I wanted to try to just get inside the mind of how we plan these things, using this as an example. And the numbers are smaller on this one, so I feel like it's easier. Sometimes we get lost in the scale of all of this. So as I'm reading it, okay, we have 18,000 square feet. This phase of it's $6 million, but we're looking down here, and the total with all the phases together would be 27.5. So if I do the math, the reason it stuck out to me is because 18,000 is within range that I know, I mean, how much it costs to build a house, for example. Let's say we're building a 2,000 square foot house. I mean, the cost here for $27.5 million for this building that I think is housing the programs, not necessarily buying the specialized equipment for them. We're just talking about putting the roof over the specialized equipment. Is that correct? Or is this including other, because as I'm calculating, this is $1,500 a square foot, and I'm trying to figure out what building out there costs $1,500 a square foot if it's just putting a roof over the welding program.
Yes, but it's actually not. The programs that are housed there are out of date. The equipment is old. It doesn't meet ADA compliance. It doesn't meet energy code. So the renovation is, this first part, the $6 million, is to try to get the building organized so that we can keep it secure, we can protect students more. But over the term of the 3 biennium, we would be redoing all the laboratory spaces and classrooms. The cost of that goes up because we're trying to keep the programs operational and do construction around it or between it without trying to affect the program. So yes, that's a very high square footage, but the building also has some major problems, both the exterior envelope, the HVAC systems, the electrical systems, since they're from 68, are nowhere near code compliant. So, but trying to do a renovation, if we went and built a new building, it would probably be less expensive to a point, other than land purchases and things. But trying to do these things and upgrade spaces, and sometimes you have to expand spaces, sometimes you have to move them to a new location to get enough space for it. It just gets costly.
So are you suggesting that all of the program equipment and the diesel technology, welding, electrical, and so forth, that's also old and will end up needing to be replaced also, in addition to this cost?
There are some pieces of equipment that are newer. Of course, we would salvage those and reuse them when they are. But when I say outdated, it's not just the piece of equipment is outdated, but perhaps the pieces of equipment that they use for the current curriculum that they need to teach for the current technologies that are available. So even if we had in the welding shop, even if we had 10 welding booths that are adequate for teaching basic welding, they may not be adequate for teaching the welding necessary for the new technologies that manufacturers in the area need our students to understand and be able to operate.
So to clarify, finally, the $27.5 million does or does not include the new technology costs?
It would include. It would include it.
Thank you.
Yes. And that number is based on a study that we've had done. As I said, we originally were thinking to build a new building in the North Campus. Okay. But we had a study done that said we could go here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we sure appreciate your time and your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask Kentucky State University to come forth, please. Please introduce yourself, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. I'm Beverly Schneller. I am the Vice Provost for Academic Quality Research and Innovation at Kentucky State University. So I'm going to talk about our master plan and our 6-year request related to that.
That on? Okay, there we go. Sorry. So one of the things that I wanted to stress with ours, particularly today, is that in June we looked at our new strategic plan, and so I wanted to contextualize the projects that we're requesting support for in relationship to our strategic plan and the impact that these projects will have on student learning and on student success going forward. So we have listed our projects in your materials in order of importance, focusing on the nursing program up front. This is an area that we know here in the Commonwealth, there's a great need for nurses. Nationally, we know there is a great need for nurses and nursing professionals. We're looking forward to the opportunity, if the capital project is approved, to looking at additional revenue streams besides what you offer and our own funding to grants, in addition to support the development of this particular facility. This would be something that we would have to look at modernizing in very specific ways to enable our students to have the best opportunities to receive the highest quality and now more technology-based nursing training and skill development. We also look at this project as an opportunity to address a larger need within the United States, a social justice need for healthcare professionals from underrepresented groups. As you know, we are the Commonwealth's accredited HBCU, so this would be an opportunity for us specifically to grow and expand our STEM education opportunities and to provide the community with underrepresented groups and doctors of color in particular. What's not represented on here that's not actually a piece of the nursing program per se is that we have a structure, a curricular structure in progress that's called the Kentucky State University Medical Academy, KUMA. That is an organization of courses within our science and health programs that start students on the path towards careers in healthcare. So what we're asking for here with this particular project is the opportunity to build on the success of our nursing program and to create a state-of-the-art facility for them. Our second priority is related to our business school and our business technology center. This is our largest undergraduate program, and it's in our Bradford Hall, which I'm sure many of you have been to. It shares space as the community's largest auditorium, and also we house our music programs, our music practice rooms, and other things in that space. Bradford Hall, not unlike many of the other buildings on our campus, are older buildings that receive routine scheduled maintenance, but we have not been able to create spaces for student learning related to business. And again, being able to address the high impact of technology related to business education now, to get state-of-the-art computer labs, state-of-the-art equipment into the space to enable our students to become familiar with how the work of these particular fields they're studying for is being done. So our proposal here is to create a new space that could also be used in addition, because it is Bradford Hall, so that could be used in addition for community service and community training as well. As some of you know, we recently signed a new opportunity with Interapt here in Frankfurt, and they too, as community partners, would be beneficiaries of our ability to offer more advanced spaces and more advanced training facilities, educational facilities for community workforce as well as for our students pursuing graduate and undergraduate degrees. Our third request for the Academic and Student Success Center, this is a place that already exists. The last renovation for our Blazer Library was completed in 1988. The building was constructed in 1958. We are looking for the opportunity to revise and upgrade our library space in addition so that it can follow the information commons model that's been in play for a little bit over 20 years in library services, where students are able to come to one location and engage in learning support services, classroom space, have seminar rooms and other opportunities where they can engage with library resources as well as with the programs that might be offered there. So as we expand our academic and student support services, we are looking for the opportunity to redesign an underutilized space, and again, to make it user-friendly, state-of-the-art, give students the opportunity to engage in a community-based model of learning support in that particular location. Our fourth group is a pool projects approach for just some needs that we have to upgrade our health and safety, as you see in the request, with our fire suppression. Exum, as you know, is an area that is widely used by the community. We started about a year ago working with the YMCA in Frankfurt. So again, investment in our pool projects would increase the opportunity for Kentucky State to be a center in support of the community and various activities. We're also, of course, appreciative of any support that you could give related to our other buildings as well in that pool listing. The next couple of areas about campus communication and infrastructure. One of the things that we learned as a residential campus in COVID-19, as most campuses did, is the strengths and weaknesses of your campus technology and your campus infrastructure. Trying to deliver our learning through our learning management system, helping students get Wi-Fi hotspots, all of those things. So this priority actually has taken on greater resonance in many ways as we come through and prepare for the next level of education post-COVID, because students really want to have a mixture of technology-based learning and in-person learning. So enhancing our ability, particularly as you see in our request number 6, on the data infrastructure and networking for data, the voice and the video piece of things. I think we all know how important that is since we have Zoom members at this meeting today. So if your Zoom link or your Microsoft Teams starts to fail on you, it really makes it difficult to continue with the work that you're trying to do. And these are it goes without saying, these are expensive propositions, but these are propositions that are well used by the students as well as the community and are very close to our mission. And then our last project is, again, IT related, looking at an enterprise resource planning system so that we can be sure that all of our IT structures, all the business operations are all electronic now, as you know. And so our older equipment is not keeping pace with some of the newer needs and some of the newer designs in the software programs that we're using, so it's a stress on them. And so in order for us to reach our third strategic goal, which is improving operational efficiency, the package of number 5, 6, and 7 would lead us right there with your support. So I am going to stop there and ask if you all have any questions. Oh, good. Oh, and I'm joined by Mr. Cable, who is the director of our facilities and capital projects, who was at another meeting. So if you have more technical questions about any of this, he's here to answer those as well. You can just sit with me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please join us. Are there any questions? Got one. Senator Southwood.
Thank you. I'm enjoying listening to some of these things, and some of them I'm familiar with, and some of them I'm not.
Okay.
I wanted to go to, for example, we're it's kind of big news, I suppose, well known or whatever, about the new residence hall that was previously approved,
yes,
to some degree or whatever. And I want to get an idea, for example, as I'm hearing things like the Health Sciences Center.
Yes.
Just at least to me sounds more interesting or important or special than a residence hall. So can you maybe give us an idea as far as priorities, because we have a lot of large ticket items here.
Yes.
How does the Health Science Center depend on, or does it, this residence hall? And is there something else that is more of a priority than the residence hall that we need to maybe, reconfigure how we're prioritizing. I'm just thinking if we're already using third-party money to do a residence hall, where are we going to find the money to finish the health science center?
Okay. Did you want to speak to that? Because I can answer it too, maybe
Go
differently.
ahead. You've been doing a great job. Carry on.
Well, the residence hall is essential to our sustainability and our future success. So they are actually two separate and not unrelated projects, but they're not as tightly woven as maybe a nursing facility like the old schools of nursing, where you had residents in the school of nursing itself. So we're looking at two different things here. So the proposed residence hall is going to enable us to literally house more students on campus, which is our goal, and meet our enrollment targets. And our enrollment is up. We're very happy about that for this coming academic year. And our spaces, as far as facilities for students, continue to tighten as the enrollment goes up, because students really do want to live on campus. I think that the better connection, in a way, in my mind, to answer your question about these priorities, is that the new dorm is going to have the wiring and the infrastructure and the LED lighting and the other things that we now have available to make construction that is literally not as old as I am. The library and I are the same age, so literally not as old as I am. These are going to be modern learning facilities, and the design of that dorm has classroom space, it has common areas, it has an outside patio that has wireless interface with it, so it's going to be a living learning center. Going back to your original question, so I don't really want to have to choose between the two of them in a way. From an academic standpoint, the nursing program and the funding for the nursing program, speaking from my background as an academic and now an administrator, the nursing program is probably the more important of the academic related priorities, because this will lead us forward, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, in helping to solve issues that are bigger than us, that we are very committed to, about the literal faces of healthcare and the opportunity that people will have, as students will have as they come through our programs, to meet the needs of not only urban but rural communities as well.
I don't want to overcomplicate, but I'm just looking at this residence hall, and you're talking about having classrooms in the residence hall. So are those classrooms duplicative of some of the classrooms that we might put in the Business and Technology Center?
No,
Or
we have great need for classrooms and
need
for
that many more
modernized
classrooms.
classroom space. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be a limited number. You know how like the first floor of buildings, they often have some classrooms, seminar meeting rooms. We're not talking about something, I mean, it's like a floor that would be devoted to some additional classrooms. And those are really good for first year experience and for new student orientation, or the new student orientation course, because it makes your residence hall a living learning community. And so you can go right downstairs and have a guest speaker in your class. You can meet in small groups and do group work and team assignments, things like that, in the space where you can also have a class.
And our new dining hall is going to be in that building as well. So the thrust is to have the south part of campus be the student part of campus, but these rooms like multipurpose classroom, dining hall, it's going to give them an opportunity to do a lot of things on that part of campus.
Okay, and not to belabor the point, but I do want to also find out, so we're talking about a bunch of new dorms and apartments and dining areas, what is the future of the clientele look like, as far as, are they locals driving in, or are they people moving in from afar, or are people doing half of this stuff online? Like, what does that look like for the future? Because I think we've seen a lot of changes over the last year.
Oh, you mean as far as in-state, out-of-state enrollment? Oh, right.
Well, I mean, not necessarily even out of state, because I mean, if you live in Murray, you're not gonna. I mean, you're gonna move to Frankfurt, but I'm just wondering what our local commuter traffic versus our, move to a new location and need an apartment in town clientele looks like.
That's a good question. I'm really not prepared to answer that, but I can find out for you what those numbers are. I do know that the students who come here and complete their degrees, that 72 to 73% of them stay in Kentucky and pursue employment in Kentucky after graduating from Kentucky State.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any questions? Okay. Dr. Jackson.
My question is also about the Health Science Center, and Just very quickly, I myself am a nurse, 30-year nurse. I'm a nurse practitioner also, and I noticed this is delineated here in your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Realizing the high fidelity simulation, that's a very
Yes.
expensive modernization.
Yes, it
Of
is.
nursing education today, so I respect that. But I'm curious about the enrollment for this, and the number of students that will be served annually with this. You indicate 120 nursing students and 50 in a BSN DMP program, but I noticed that it is specialized in adult gerontology. And when you began presenting, you were talking about, the wave of the future and the needs for nurses and that sort of thing. So I'm just trying to gain a little understanding about the demographics of students that you're serving in this center. Is that associate, baccalaureate, master's, and then this BSN to DMP in one specialty track? Or
Yes.
you have all of those programs and they'll all access this center?
Yes, they will.
Okay, and the high fidelity simulation will go from associate to your post-baccalaureate
Yes.
DMP
Yes,
bridge?
it will. And we just met last week with the leadership at Frankfurt Regional, discussing with them a pathways program so that they can better support our need for clinical space and clinical workspace for our students. So right now, because we have a modest arrangement with our simulators, we're able to do some simulation-based training, and we rely heavily on our clinicals, obviously, to get our students out, just in addition to meeting their accreditation requirements, but to have the opportunity to shadow and to be mentored by healthcare professionals.
Okay, and my only other question, it really sort of relates to this, is use of this space, and you can answer it or maybe not. Do you have plans to expand your mid-level practice opportunity for students so that could even grow the enrollment, that will utilize
Yes,
this
ma'am.
space into other specialty areas of mid-level practice?
Yes, that was something that we discussed actually with Frankfurt Regional last week, was how they could partner with us in that regard. And that's why the space is really critical to us. And the stand-up and the build-out of the nursing program will be, if it's approved by our Board of Regents in September, our #1 legislative priority as well for this year. So we really want to see this program grow, and we really want to provide the students a state-of-the-art facility so that they'll be prepared. Because, so much training is lateral, and you're trying to solve the problem that's right in front of you. And we want to be forward-looking with this facility, which is why it's so important that we get your support for it. Thank
very
you.
much.
Well, thank you for your presentation and for your information. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you all.
Next, we have Morehead State University. Would you please come forward and introduce yourself?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is Kim Oatman. I'm the AVP for Facilities at Morehead State. And I'm sharing my screen with you. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
All right. So our 6-year capital plan is a continuation of our efforts to become more efficient operationally. And we pretty much in the last 5 to 6 years have disposed of about 10 buildings, about 130,000 square feet, which really helps to reduce our operational costs. We've also used funds that we've sold some properties that has gone to be able to reduce our debt. Our campus master plan, as well as our 6-year capital plan, is focused on enhancing our existing campus facilities and better utilizing our existing facilities and really replacing our outdated STEM facilities, which I'm going to focus on here. Our capital plan has 28 general fund project requests that are preservation of existing facilities, which, like all the other universities, we struggle with that to keep up with our asset preservation, which is an extreme need. We also have, as a part of our plan, 2 general fund project requests. Our #1 request is for our science and engineering building. Our science programs continue to grow, and our engineering, we have new engineering degrees. We're requesting a $98 million project for a science and engineering building, which this kind of gives you a little flavor of the architecture. that matches some of our old collegiate Gothic architecture on campus. We're requesting 140,000 square feet, which will be home to all of our STEM programs, all of our core sciences, as well as our craft academy for excellence in science and math. You can see we have a significant amount of growth in really our core science programs, and our space science program more recently has really taken off, and we're widely acclaimed there with that program across the nation, across the world. We have our professional students are graduating and going out into professional schools at a high rate, and we're very proud of that. So our sciences are very robust, and we just really need facility for that. Our job placement for our science students are very good. As you can see, there's just a couple examples. So our second priority is for renovation of the Burt T. Combs building. The building was built in the 40s, and it's a good old solid building, but just in need of some interior renovation, classroom renovations, technology, and of course all the MEP in the building is in need of replacement. So that's about an 87,000 square foot building. Third, I'll talk about our electrical system on campus. We've been fortunate enough to upgrade our Circuit A. We basically have two main circuits feeding campus, and Circuit A has been taken underground and a lot of new equipment in the last 7 years. But Circuit B is still old equipment and overhead lines, and we've had some outages on that. So we're requesting a $3 million project for that is critical. During this last February ice storms, a couple of times I had to go out and look at those overhead lines to make sure they were still holding. We're really concerned. Those lines there, and this Circuit B feeds all of our residential facilities. So very important to upgrade those. As you'll see, I'm not going to focus on the other projects that we have, but they are all related to capital renewal, asset preservation of our existing infrastructure mainly, and we certainly have a backlog of that, like just about like everybody else. Our number 4 project is just for capital renewal that is a mix of different types of projects. So, and I'll back up to the science building. I didn't mention that our existing facility is Lappin Hall, constructed in 1937 and added on through the years. It's just not really adequate for the technology and the science that we need to teach in there. So that's why it remains to be our number 1 priority, and it has been ranked as a number 1 priority for the last couple biennials. So with that, I'll turn it over for questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, we have a question.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Aerospace and the space sciences in general, it's always been very impressed with me what all is going on at Moorhead and really the cutting edge things that you all are doing. My question to you is going forward, what do you see the future of the space science program being, and any goals going forward, or any partnership with future potential employers?
Well, yeah, certainly. And thank you for that comment. We're very proud of our program, Space Science. We do have a good relationship with NASA and the Jet Propulsion Lab, which we currently collect data from antennas that our students are actually involved with. So it's very robust, and I guess it was 10, 12 years ago, we built the Space Science facility, which was only about 40,000 square feet. So we're nearing a point where we'll be outgrowing that. So bringing a new building for space science, for the core sciences, will help us to expand the space science as well, because all the space science have to take those core sciences and allow us to continue to focus the facilities that are there on space science alone. And yes, you saw the graphic about how we've grown since 2012, and we anticipate that will continue. Our students are 100% job placement when they graduate, and many, I don't know the number, but many are working for NASA at the various places across the U.S.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Lewis. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we thank you for your time and your presentation and hope to be talking to you soon. Thank you very much. Okay, next, if we please could have Murray State University join us. I believe it's virtually as well. We see your slide, but please introduce yourself and begin.
Yes, this is Bob Jackson. I'm president of Murray State University. And Mr. Chair, thank you for the time today, and members of the planning board, the advisory board. With me will be Jackie Dudley, our Vice President of Finance and Administrative Services, Jason Youngblood, our Director of Facilities Management, and Jordan Smith, our Director of Governmental and Institutional Relations. So all the projects you're going to hear about today from Murray State University deal with deferred maintenance, asset preservations, life safety, enhancement of our academic buildings. So I've been in this position for 3 years, and since that time, we have focused on that topic, and we're making a lot of progress in that particular area, those particular areas. We have a number of deferred maintenance asset preservation projects going on as we speak. And I know that Mr. Youngblood will touch on each and every one of those. Murray State University will be 100 years old next year. And many of the buildings that we're preparing to talk about, and I think we'll talk about the top 3 or 4 projects only, are nearing 100 years old. So obviously we have a lot of deferred maintenance, asset preservation, life safety issues that we're dealing with here at Murray State, as most colleges and universities today. So I'll stop there. Again, thank you, and we'll be happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. And Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jackson. Thank you to the committee today for the time to present. Like Dr. Jackson led off, we're going to talk mainly about our top 3 projects listed here. Our capital plan presently does not have all these in the first biennium, but we'll be making amendments to our capital plan before it closes to move these projects up from the second and third biennium into the first biennium. Our top project for $25 million is our capital renewal and deferred maintenance. We have many needs, like most of the schools presenting today have. We have a large list of capital renewal needs and deferred maintenance for HVAC, energy management into controls, elevators, plumbing systems, fire alarms, elevators, etc. A lot of those needs are in buildings that are 60 years plus old. We've got a large need in those facilities. Also, our Oakley Applied Science building, built in the early 60s, is needing some renovations, ADA accessibility, some classroom upgrades and office upgrades. There are several different programs housed in that building, which is 2 towers, a north and south tower, connected with a center section. And then also Mason Hall is the home of our nursing program. Is long overdue for some renovations, mechanical upgrades for classrooms, offices, etc. in that building. Just the next slide was just some pictures of some of our old steam systems on campus and a lot of those buildings. Some of the HVAC upgrades would be getting a lot of our buildings off of central steam and going to standalone boilers. Our central steam system is all underground, is in major needs of repair and levels of levels of maintenance needs there, and it's very costly to maintain and repair that system. And we can go to individual building boilers and make it a lot more efficient. Talk briefly about our number one agency bond priority is to construct residential housing. This is primarily a P3 project for our housing needs. Everything prior to this in our capital plan is all E&G buildings. So this is our number one need in the housing side, our auxiliary side of campus. One thing that I will touch on is we've had, in the last session, we had a $12 million bond authorized in the session that is the first time that's been done for money to be used for asset preservation. We are spending that money on Curris Center, which is our student center, to create a welcome center, to do some much needed upgrades to that facility, which is the first space our students see when they come to our campus. We will also be doing some upgrades to some of our more historic buildings. This was the $12 million bond project was a historic building preservation pool. Rather Hall Auditorium is in need of some upgrades, some structural repairs to the stage, converting this building to standalone boilers from our central steam, and just upgrading our auditorium for classroom use. We will also be doing what we're calling phase 2 of our Lovett Auditorium renovations. Phase 1 was done under some of our asset preservation funds, and this phase 2 will be done under some of our agency bond funds that were approved for additional HVAC work, for the balcony doors and window replacements in this building constructed in 1926. Also, Carr Hall will get converted from central steam to standalone boilers as part of that $12 million pool. And this is just showing a few things we're trying to do with the money you've already authorized us to spend in that bond money. Racer Arena is another one, some HVAC upgrades there to get it off central steam. This will also add air conditioning to this facility that's never had air conditioning in its existence. There are several other E&G buildings that we have on that list that we will try to use any funds that remain of that $12 million, but given the volatility of the market right now and cost of materials, we're being hesitant to spend it before we know exactly what everything's going to cost. And that pretty much wraps us up. I don't know, Dr. Jackson, if you want to touch on some of these items.
I would like to add one other thing, Mr. Chair, if I could, in regard to the top 3 projects that Mr. Youngblood touched on. Obviously, number 1 touches many, many buildings and needs on our campus. Item 2, as Jason did point out, that's the home of the Hudson School of Agriculture. I just want to point that out, a growing area of Murray State University. It's vitally important to far Western Kentucky. And again, that building is quite old and has many needs. And then the third item, the top 3 items, Mason Hall is our School of Nursing and Health Professions, a growing, vibrant area of our university and very important to this region as well. So again, we're trying to address deferred maintenance, asset preservation, life safety needs, as we have been for the last few years. And for the legislative members, as well as the administration, I'd like to thank you for the approval of the $12.2 million bond issue. And at our June board meeting, we moved forward with a number of the projects that Mr. Youngblood outlined, and we're making progress in all those areas. So thank you again. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, President Jackson. Are there any questions? Well, we thank you for your presentation and look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, next we have on the agenda is Northern Kentucky University. Please come forth and introduce yourself. Thank you. Please begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Senator Southworth and Representative McCool and members of the advisory board. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Carmen Hickerson, Assistant Vice President for Economic Engagement and Government Relations at NKU. I'm joined by my colleagues today, Mike Hales, Interim VP for Finance and Administration and CFO, Syed Zaidi, Assistant Vice President for Facilities Management, and Mary Paula Shu, who is our Senior Director for Planning, Design, and Construction. In just 53 years, Northern Kentucky University has graduated more than 77,000 alumni, and an impressive 85% of those graduates remain in the Northern Kentucky region. Just this past May, we conferred more than 1,700 degrees and other credentials. Our strategic plan framework, Success by Design, reinforces our commitment to being a student-ready, regionally engaged university that empowers a diverse set of learners to have fulfilling careers and meaningful lives. At 16,000 students strong, we are one of the fastest growing universities in Kentucky and in our region. Our geographic location at the crossroads of the country allows NKU to partner with regional economic entities to the mutual benefit of the region and our students. From St. Elizabeth Healthcare to the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport to Fidelity and Western and Southern financial companies, our economic partnerships are providing our students with unique and experiential learning opportunities outside the classroom. I'll now turn things over to Mike to speak to our capital project requests.
All right. Thank you, Carmen, and thank you, committee. I'm going to focus really on three of our top priorities in our capital plan. Our 2020 Campus Master Plan closely linked our strategic framework, what we call our Success by Design, which provides a foundation for our capital plan. Focus on a sustainable approach to growing and improving the campus for our students. The master plan confirmed significant space shortages in lab and experiential learning categories and in spaces which promote student engagement and success. Note that these space shortages were derived based on the assumption of static enrollment growth and in consideration of a hybrid learning environment. In a strategy similar to that employed for our Health Innovation Center and Founders Hall renovation, which were projects that were funded back in 2014, the master plan envisions a series of capital renewal and expansion projects to modernize and renew our legacy buildings and create a 21st century learning space. Because the campus lacks swing space to allow these major life cycle renovations to occur, the first project is key to positioning the campus for our future upgrades. To enable future investments and to meet an ever-increasing demand for STEM graduates, an expansion of the 20-year-old science building is the university's top priority. We are asking for $77.9 million in state bonds for this project. As background, the Science Center was originally completed back in 2002, and several significant size reductions were needed at the time to keep the Science Center within budget. As a result, NKU now has less than 50% of the science space available to students on other Kentucky regional campuses on a square foot per student basis. NKU's fall 2021 applications for admission in basic sciences and engineering technology are up an amazing 32% over last fall. Experiential and hands-on learning are critical to the STEM curriculum. The science expansion will provide space for collaboration among faculty, staff, and students across disciplines, leveraging knowledge, innovation, and creativity. Without sufficient space designed to support experiential learning and research, NKU cannot meet the escalating demand for these STEM degrees. Workforce development and career preparation also bring urgency to this need. Regional business owners and economic development leaders have stressed the urgent need for employees skilled in all the STEM fields. We ask for your support for this critical project to help us help our students as we engage with our region to increase the number and quality of STEM-prepared workers ready to tackle the challenges of our state's economy. Additionally, NKU's capital project list includes numerous projects related to facility modernization and asset preservation. I know you've heard quite a bit about that from all the campuses. As mentioned, one of our priorities is to seek an upgrade to our legacy buildings, including our Fine Arts Building and our Steele Library. So our number 2 priority project is modernization and renewal of the 160,000 square feet Fine Arts building with an ask of $45 million of state bonds. This important academic building is home to NKU's School of the Arts, which is well recognized throughout the Commonwealth and beyond. Structural repairs related to subsurface shale, life safety upgrades, HVAC, and other system upgrades are essential to preserve and extend the life of the Fine Arts building. Our third priority is renovation of the Steele Library, both an asset preservation and a space modernization project with an ask of $35 million of state bonds. Today's library simply does not hold books. It features active learning and study spaces, as well as a variety of services that support student success. As part of this renovation, we also plan to move various academic support offices from 2 other buildings to the library, creating a student support hub and freeing up space in University Center and Student Union for student engagement. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Carmen to wrap up.
Thank you, Mike. So in summary, NKU is committed to meeting the Commonwealth's need for an educated workforce, particularly in the high-demand fields of healthcare, engineering, and technology. We have delivered on that commitment to date. Our STEM plus H degrees have increased 12.6% over the last 5 years, and overall, our bachelor degree production has increased by 22.5% over the last 10 years. For NKU to be well positioned to meet future demands of our students and the region, targeted existing programs must be expanded and new programs created. Such growth can only occur with the creation of critical new academic science space and continued commitment to asset preservation. And as we have shown in the past, we believe that Northern Kentucky University comes with a significant return on your investment. So with that, we'll turn it to questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? We have one question from Dr. Jackson.
Yeah, when you first began, you talked about the STEM for this particular space, and then you added STEM plus H, which was interesting. On the 12.6% increase, is that the majority in the STEM itself, or is the greater growth in the plus H healthcare field for your enrollment increase?
Yeah, the significant growth. Now, while we are seeing a lot in, as I mentioned, the basic sciences, we're seeing in our engineering technology, we're seeing about a 32% growth year over year in our admissions. Now, we'll see what the final enrollment numbers are, but the plus H side of it, our nursing programs are growing significantly. So that will be a large piece of the 12% that Carmen mentioned.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Again, seeing no other questions, we thank you for your time and your presentation. Thank you very much. And then we'd like to ask the University of Kentucky to come forth and introduce yourself and please begin. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Vosovich. I'm the Vice President and Chief Facilities Officer at the University of Kentucky. And
hello, I'm Angie Martin. I'm the Chief Budget Officer at the University of Kentucky.
So we want to thank you for your incredible support over the past years for our capital renewal program. The University of Kentucky had its largest enrollment last year with 31,000 students last fall, and we are trending in that direction for this coming school year also, and anxiously awaiting all that activity on our campus when most of our classes were hybrid or remote last year. You know, we always talk about what's possible at the University of Kentucky, and that includes our service, our learning, research, and also our health care. And our partnership with the Commonwealth allows us to not simply ask what is possible, but it allows us to build what is possible. And we've been successful in initiating and completing many modernization projects over the past 5 to 7 years. We've been successful with renovating our Greehan building. Frazee Hall is currently being modernized, and our chemistry physics building is also being modernized at that time. So our first priority really is our capital request to continue our modernization initiative. And our modernization projects that we talk about really preserve and extend the useful life of our existing facilities. We modernize the campus to create a unified sense of place and enhance student success as measured by the state's performance funding model. We hope to improve the utilization of space, creating spaces that respond to Kentucky's workforce needs, especially in the STEM plus H disciplines. We want to create better space to increase research collaboration with faculty, staff, and students where ingenuity can unfold. And we have a lot of opportunities now where students are actually getting to be involved in research projects. Of course, we want to preserve the historic structures to our campus and their contribution to our 150-year-plus history. And then being the facilities person, of course, I want to manage efficiently our repair and maintenance costs, upgrade our existing infrastructure to improve energy-efficient systems that reduce our operating costs and lower future maintenance expenses. Our second priority is going to be the construction of a new health education building. This is an academic facility that's going to house our College of Medicine, our College of Public Health, and some nursing programs. So this past year really had us refocus on this building. We thought we'd be building a new College of Medicine building. But with the pandemic that we were all facing this past year, we really looked towards public health and our nursing programs also and want to combine those programs so that we have that collaborative interaction between those schools in this one building. So this is a $350 million building. We're requesting $175 million in state bonds for that project, $87.5 million in agency bonds, and $87.5 million as a P3 component. Our third is the renewal and upgrade of Funkhauser Hall. Funkhauser is what I affectionately call a vintage building. It is a historic building in the core of our campus that will be repurposed for the College of Engineering. You recall I was mentioning how important our STEM plus H programs are. This is a request for $60 million in state bonds with a total scope of $120 million, $30 with agency funds and $30 as a P3 component. And then finally, we want to request authorization to improve our healthcare facilities on our Chandler campus to include $50 million in agency bonds and $260 million in agency funds. Our annual inpatient discharges have increased by 16.5% since 2003, exceeding 42,500 in the 2021-22 year. And our outpatient visits have increased by 123.8% to more than 2 million over the past decade. So again, we are asking for our modernization, we're asking for our health education building, our renewal and upgrade of the Funkhauser building, and UK healthcare facilities on our Chandler campus. Of course, we've got many, many projects, as I'm sure you well know, but these are our priorities at the top of our list right now. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Well, we thank you for your time and your presentation and look forward to working with you soon. Thank you very much. Next, we'd like to ask the University of Louisville to please come forward and introduce yourself, and you may begin. Thank you.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Watkins. I'm from the University of Louisville, and next to me I have Meg Campbell. She's our Executive Director for University Planning, Design, and Construction. I can tell you we're extremely happy to be sitting here in person. So this is actually, this forced me to actually put a jacket on. So I think I spent the last year and a half in a polo shirt and jeans. So extremely happy. But representatives, senators, and staff, thank you very much for your time today. I'll try to keep ours brief. There's about 181 projects that we have listed on our capital plan. And I can tell you that there are 181 things that are very important to us. But our priorities really haven't changed from the last time we actually sat in here. But I'll jump into that a little bit later. Our 6-year plan adds up to about $2 billion of projects, with 73% of those projects falling within the first 2 years. That equates to about 1.4 million in the first 2 years of this new 6-year capital plan. How this breaks down is general funds, we're looking at about 100 million, research funds about 1.2 billion, agency bonds about 120 million, and other, which is about 550 million. So that equates to a little bit over $2 billion. And I could sit here and say we're requesting support from the state of over $2 billion worth of money, but we know that's not realistic. So I will not ask that today. Maybe tomorrow. Right? So we have, this past year during the pandemic, we have realized one of our top enrollment numbers. We're sitting over 23,000 students. In the days of online classes and hybrid classes, we've actually shown an increase in our student base. Our projections for this fall are very similar, so we don't anticipate going backwards. We anticipate going forward. With that need, our priorities, like what they were the last time, still remain the same. First priority is to upgrade our STEM building infrastructure, and the second priority is to invest in capital renewal and replacement. We have over 50, our buildings, over 50% of our buildings are over 52 years old, and our systems are just as old. Just like the rest of the state, we are really, really focused on trying to get our backlog of deferred maintenance chipped away at. And I say that we've done our due diligence, and we're looking at over $500 million worth of $500 million, $500 million worth of deferred maintenance issues. So outside of those two things, we are focusing on investing in upgrades and renovations of our research community as well. That's on our health sciences campus, as well as our classrooms as well. So I don't want to miss that. And I can tell you in summary, our 6-year capital plan includes projects that will improve and further optimize in every aspect of our facilities portfolio. This includes, in the short term, upgrade of the STEM buildings, our capital renewal replacement, and upgrades, a new academic space, College of Business. We're looking at trying to build a new building there for about $120 million. Our speed school engineering has been growing each year, building a new facility or two for there as well. Renovating academic space on the health sciences campus and on the Belknap campus as well. And then our research space. Our research space right now is quite dated. We have been lucky enough to secure some grants to help renovate a few of those spaces, but we are running out of resources. So as we go back to the first two priorities, we created in this capital plan a pool. So it's so for the updating of the STEM facilities, there's a $50 million pool which we put in place there, and then for the capital renewal, there's $100 million. We're asking for the state support on the capital renewal side of it. We're asking for a 50-50 split. And that would be our capital plan conversation in a nutshell. If you have any questions of us, we'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Senator Southwood.
Thank you. I'm looking at the College of Business.
Yes.
There's just a note here. So we have 80 million in private funds, cash, and then 40 million agency bonds.
Yes.
I'm just picking this out because it's a good example, but I'm trying to get a handle on, let's say, the scope of the project.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we got a lot of things that use a lot of bonds, and then a lot of more things that we need, general funds and state support and so forth. This 80 million private funds cash is like amazing. I'm very happy to see that. But is that designated gifts to the $120 million project specifically, or is it designated gifts to a College of Business building? And let's say it could pay for that, and the 40 million agency bonds could be used for another project. I'm just trying to get an idea of the scope of this thing.
So right now we have a donor that is specifically interested in investing $80 million or more into a College of Business building. They had committed $120 million to it, but when it became real situation, the money got smaller. So we're hopeful that the donor can come forth with $120 million, but just in case, we wanted to make sure we had a buffer in there in case we needed it. So if in essence the donor comes in at $120 million, we would use that other $40 million to help support other projects.
So, for example, is the building and the project, the design, all this kind of already very established, or if they show up with $100 million, the design could find 20 to cut and it would make a great building anyway, and we'd have it done?
Oh, we can build a building for, well, I'll let her speak, but if all we had was $100 million, we could figure out a way to do a beautiful building for $100 million. Ideally, the dean would like to build a $200 million building if he could, but there's not enough funding for that. I missed anything there?
No, we could certainly build to $100 million, no problem whatsoever. But there's some studies have started on the building itself and the site. It's not very far. We're waiting for finalization of the donation.
Okay. Well, this goes to this topic, but also a number of others. We get in here and here's a price tag and here's a description, and we've got, little tiny bit of information. It's sometimes one of the most frustrating things for me is I'd like to see, grand version, budget-friendly version, shoestring worst-case scenario version. Because it's hard to know what number we put on these things, because I'd rather, that we get these other buildings fixed and get the College of Business, And so $40 million can go a long way. Doesn't the other smaller projects, we can get a lot more stuff done. So that's just one of those kind of things out there for everybody listening. If we could get maybe in some of the presentations, that detail is very helpful to know. If we're going to be able to put line item dollars in a budget and suggest something, it's great to have those details when we're making those decisions. Thank you.
Yeah, and I truly believe that our approach is that we're a very conservative approach when we're looking at our budget numbers, but we want to be safe too, because the last thing we want to do is present to you an $80 million building, and then all of a sudden it's a $120 million building, and that process of getting that approved is a little bit more challenging than sitting here having this discussion today. So we could find a happy medium.
Appreciate
somewhere.
that, especially when 2x4s are $20 a piece. I understand.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your presentation, and looking forward to working with you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. And last but not least, Western Kentucky University. Will you please come forward and introduce yourself, and you may begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Smith. I'm the Director of Government Community Relations and Special Assistant to the President. Thank you for allowing us to present today.
I'm Brian Russell, Chief Facilities Officer for Western, and thank you all for having us today. And I'll echo, it sure is good to see you all in person. Thank you. Western Kentucky University has historically focused the planning process and the need to integrate campus planning into the university's long-term campus planning. We just recently finished our 2021-2031 Capital Master Plan, which supports our strategic plan. And the state had helped years ago with a facilities assessment plan back in 2007. Well, the university feels that that is such an important endeavor that we also have just recently completed our own VFA facility assessment that gives us a complete digital database for us to keep updated, which did identify over $500 million in capital and deferred projects and maintenance. Why I say that is some of the things we're doing to help ourselves is we currently this summer are raising Garrett Conference Center, which was built in 1951, had an additional ballroom added in the 60s, and that building is being raised currently, which will take about 80,000 gross square feet out of our inventory. We are also, after about 15 years, raising Tate Page Hall, which for years and years and years provided the needed space for teachers and educators at the university. Those plans take away some of the deferred capital planning that is included in that $500 million, but it is strategic. Because of your gifts and effort, we were able to build the new College of Education back in 2010, and also one of the finest Ogden Hall Science Laboratory buildings in the state of Kentucky. Just received the first well-certified building in the United States for indoor air quality and environment for our students. That's quite a statement for state of Kentucky and the university. With that said, the biggest thing that the university works on is our aging and deterioration of our facilities. Much not like some of our other institutions, 50% of our academic buildings are over or close to 60 years old. It's an ongoing problem. We keep working on those problems as we go along, taking the funds that are provided. So this year's 6-year capital plan is very aggressive, but it's necessary to provide our students of all different backgrounds with rigorous academic programs in education, liberal arts, sciences, the health sciences, and businesses, with the emphasis at the baccalaureate and master levels. So Western #1 plan is our business college. We are still seeking to construct a new Gordon Ford College of Business. It's very important to the region, the community, and outlying or surrounding counties. That's about a $75 million request. Secondly, replacing our underground infrastructure. Campus back in 1910, a lot of the things are high voltage, our steam, our storm water, etc., is in need, and that is a continued top 10 ask of $25 million, which we are working on some of those projects this summer. And we have been in the past, and we've invested our own funds up to about $38 million in making those repairs over the last probably 12, 15 years. So again, humble request, but we thank you for the opportunity, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? All right, again, we want to thank you very much for your time and your presentation. We look forward to working with you in the future. And thank everybody today for coming in. This is very informative. A lot of information. We need a big check, don't we? But We certainly appreciate that very much. But the needs are there. We know that. So this helps us to come up with a summary report to provide to the governor at some point in time. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all.
Okay. We've had all of our presenters. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Trying to figure out why this mic won't turn off. You know what? Every time I go to turn on it, it is already on. Yeah, like the last 2 times, and I was just.